Well, we're back from the team trials. What a time it was. And we entered a part of the year where the weather starts to cool off. Kids are going back to school. So it's hard to get a parking spot by the house. In fact, here are the kids. And we're out to see if Rich and John are ready to... they're supposed to have opened up the new field, but I don't know if they did. But we get the Pal Park site back today. Well, actually, we got it back yesterday. And I think they were gonna... See, I don't know. I don't know if they got the barrels out and everything, but if they did, even better. I was buried in work when I got back, but it's good to be back. Trips are fun, but this is the part of the year we really enjoy the most. The weather's gonna start cooling off. We got a couple more local contests. It's the best time of the year, in my opinion. September and October, the two best months. Boy, talk about things you like. I love to watch other people go to work in the city. Get on that commuter train and go. I don't know what there is about that. Time to go to work. And for us retired people, time to go flying. I'm really adapting to retirement very well, semi-retirement, and Karen has a little over a month to go, and she'll be adapting too. Now the next part in our development for the 90, which of course is going to be the basis of the 90 Spitfire, the next step is we're going to start working on different exhaust systems. I have one more of our experimental systems in the plane right now, which we'll try to give it some flights today if we get some weather. I don't know, it's still early. Not sure how this day is going to play out, but that's the next step in our development, is to try to develop some variety of exhaust system and some of the technology that's going to go into the 90 Spitfire, next year's subscriber per airplane. And two more vets. I can't stand it. Everybody's got a vet except me. Everybody. Everybody. Now, I haven't actually even been here since we left for Texas, the week before we left for Texas. And hey, it reminds me, one of the things we missed this year, because we had that horrendous storm, I think, that wiped out the baby geese population. Obviously, it didn't wipe out the adults. But we missed seeing the baby geese grow up. And that was one of the things I always looked forward to every morning, and I'd always bring some of my scrap bread that we feed the birds with. And John used to feed the geese. We used to, the seagulls and everything. We used to really have some fun now. From the look of that flag, I don't think this is going to be a real good flying day, but I want to see if they've got the field in order. 2 weeks from now is our meet here, so maybe if it's unflyable, we'll just get some work done on the field. But it's good to be back from the team trials, and we really enjoyed that giant scale. I'm going to melt that all down and make one big giant RC scale only DVD out of that. Look at this bird. Well, it looks like Rich and John have already set up the barrels. But again, we had so much work to do. Hey, they even got a table here now. We had so much work to do when we got back. Look at this. Actually, the field looks like it's in great shape. But because our other field is close by, I wonder, maybe they're down at the other field. They were putting in a sewer line at the other field. I'm just trying to get a lay of the land here, especially because it's not a real great flying day. Anyway, but it's a good feeling to know we have at least a backup field just in case, and I hope we're going to get it again next year. But boy, it's amazing. Everything around here, Keith Ferguson had the best saying of all. He said it's like building a kayak in Hawaii. You never know if you're going to have a place to use it. Anyway, but we'll get oriented again today, and if we can't get any flying, tomorrow, hey, tomorrow is our block party, our annual block party, something we look forward to also each year. And they actually rescheduled it a week later so that I could go to the team trial. So I guess I owe it to the neighbors. I don't know why, but I really do miss. They had so many baby geese last year. They were flopping around everywhere. You can see how many there are on our field. And at this field, this is one of the things we always have to be aware of. But we really do enjoy seeing them and feeding them in the morning. And I don't know why. Now, I'm not sure what they've done here. They're putting a road in, actually. And this is right beside our flying field, and they were supposed to, actually, they were supposed to dig this all up. What a mess. We were hoping they wouldn't dig it up while we were here, but looks like we lose. Anyway, we're gonna go back to the house. We got a list of other things to do. This is supposed to be a road going right along the railroad track. They said they weren't going to disrupt our flying if we wanted to use the site, but maybe or maybe not, I don't know. Everything's an adventure here. Now we don't, unfortunately, it turned into like a little mini hurricane here, but we got plenty of other things to do. Oh, this is our baby fish that boy, he's a baby. One of the two babies the kids gave us. Here's the other one down there. It takes a while for them to get used to swimming with the big fish. I'm not sure why. And then it takes a while for them to get ready to come up and eat. Nah, they eventually figure it out. They eventually figure it out. Here's a little guy here. Anyway, we try to always take advantage of the fact that when we get a day like today, and I mean, it's really blowing out here now. There's supposed to be thunderstorms coming in later. And I'm really disappointed because tomorrow's our block party. We were hoping to have, every year we have a block party, and we try to have, we entertain people in our backyard and out in the street and everything. And it kind of depends on having some good weather. I'm not sure we're going to have it this year, but especially with this whatever's blowing in here now. But we got plenty of stuff to do down the shop. And I want to share some of the thoughts I have over this last year that's just coming to an end very soon. Now, I would say as we get ready to start planning out our 2008 building of the 90 Spitfire, we've learned enough about the 90 now, and probably the only thing we haven't really developed enough that I'm happy with it is the exhaust systems. But that's coming, and we're not going to be trying to do that in the middle of a hurricane. Now, and in the year that's gone by, you know, I've tried to be real careful to keep all the good memories. I've written down on each tape some of the good memories, and when we go to make our memories of 2007, I think this is going to be a year that we'll never forget. And as soon as we do get some weather, Rich is just straining at the bit to fly his bent wing Stuka. And you can imagine this time next year we may be flying a bent wing Stuka and a 90 Spitfire. Not sure where that's all evolving out to, but we're certainly looking forward to the possibility. Now, one of the things I do every year about this time, and I try to do it at least once a year, I try to organize things and get organized. What do I bring to the field? What do I need in inventory? Because I don't want to wait till the day I start building to order balsa wood. And no matter what project we've worked on or we've shared through the video, there's always something new to learn, and this year is no exception. Now let me just make a little storyboard of what I think is significant about this year. Now, one of the things we really learned, and it was a very valuable lesson, if you remember right, when we only brought one plane to the Nats, boy, that was a killer. That really got me so mad. Because there's two kind of lessons in my experience. There's the lessons you learn and you never forget. Slam your hand in a car door, do a lampion, put your finger in a prop, work in a machine shop, cut a finger off. Usually you learn that and you never do it again. Now, the problem with modeling lessons, some of them don't really sink in. Now, it had been many, many years that I thought, hey, I don't have any problems anymore. I'm a big tough guy. I don't crash. I don't have flaps fall off the plane or whatever. Well, you know what? It just goes to show you. This year we relearned a lesson we had already learned. So the number one thing, we went to the team trials, we brought 2 planes. Now, right away, that lesson paid dividends. It paid dividends for Jose, maybe not for me as much, but having 2 planes there, being able to switch the motors, being able to switch props, whatever, gas tanks, whatever. It's really, really an important lesson. If you have room in a car for a second piece of equipment, it's always a good idea to bring it. I think that's a lesson I learned many years ago and unfortunately had to relearn. But going into 2008, I don't think we're going to have to learn it again. That's part of the good news, is sometimes you can really, well, I'm not sure. There are other things I wanted to touch on here, but that's one of them. And that's one of the ones that, unfortunately, when it bites you, you don't get to relive that day over or that afternoon. But had we not had the second plane at Muncie, Jose wouldn't have gotten a fly, and I would have felt bad. I would have thought, well, good friend I am. But anyway, it's all water under the bridge right now. Right now we have another issue that I want to deal with, and this is something I try to do at least once a year. Once a year I have to relearn this lesson, and it's an important one. Now, and in my case, this is I guess more severe than most people. Just an example of, and we were making our own props as well as using the ones Doran sent us last year. But what happens is, in the beginning of this year, I had segregated out all the 90s stuff into one area of the toolbox. Then I started flying the Testarossa and the Spitfire. I have another toolbox. What happens is, I have so many things I bring to the field, it gets crazy. So now what I wanted to do, I wanted to go down to Home Depot, and it's ironic that this happened. I went down to Home Depot, and they had these little tool organizers on sale. So I wanted to make one for my 90 parts, one for my 76 parts, because the nuts don't interchange, the heads, the gaskets, the O-rings, the venturis. I really never had them properly segregated. This is going to be a good day. And another thing, to do that, another thing is, I had a lot of these props pitched up for the 90, a lot of props pitched for the 76. And what happens, they start commingling at the field, they get thrown back in a box, people borrow them. And while we're going to be working on Rich's 90 Stuka and on the 90 in the Novanta, now it's got a pipe on it, and we're going to be working, I need to keep this segregated, because what happens if I get to the field and I bring the wrong box or the wrong props or the wrong glow plugs or the wrong something, it's a problem. There's another problem. If you wind up bringing too much stuff, it just gets to be a tremendous burden carrying three. I see some people show up at the field, they look like they're going camping with so much stuff, and then you ask them, well, you got an extra 440 bolt? Ah, I don't have it. Well, that's the whole issue here, is to figure out, I want to do a little storyboard. What do you really need at the field, and what really are you just being cute by having this big toolbox that you can take a bath in? So one of the things I wanted to get sorted out today is sort out my 90 stuff from my 76 stuff. I have various sets of lines, handles, the unique motor parts, extra fuel tanks, all of these things. And what happens is, if I leave one thing home, that's the thing I need. If I left the 632 wrench home, as soon as you get to the field, the 632 bolt will loosen up. Don't bring a spare prop nut. You can guarantee it'll strip on the first or second flight. So my feeling is, on a day it's unflyable, and Karen's busy getting ready for the block party tomorrow, I thought I'd spend this day organizing all my stuff for the 90 and my stuff for the 76, and getting it so I have 90 stuff, 76 stuff. Because when we do the Spitfire, it's going to be, and I hope I'm going to really get this part of it down right. I want to be able to change from 90 to 76, 90 to 76, and have that option if I want to rebalance the plane, make it more tail heavy, more nose heavy, or allow for the fact Richard's coming out with new stuff. Now he's in the middle of buying a new house right now, but you never know what's coming. Maybe there's an 85 coming, maybe there's a 72 coming. In fact, there is a 67 and I don't even have one. But we want to make the Spitfire as universal in the front as possible, and because it's going to be a more scale fuselage, that should be relatively easy to do. Now, years ago, what I tried to do, and this didn't work out well at all, but I always remember, I made this very cute little box with a quart can and a pump. And these are the kind of lessons I guess you go back and learn 2 or 3 times, and you really never do learn them. This was my motive. I had the little starter battery in there. I had a 440 wrench, a 632 wrench, maybe one other wrench, and a wrench to change the glow plug and the prop, a spare glow plug, a spare fuel filter, I'm not sure what else. But I had this cool little box. I painted it to match the plane, and I was really impressed. I said, everybody's carrying this big heavy toolbox, and I got this great little toolbox. Now, there was only one problem with it. Where we were flying at the time, you had to park the car quite a ways away, and every time I needed something, you'd go back to the car, and it was quite a walk. Now, where Joe Adamusco's flying now, if you can park your car within 100 feet of where you're going to take off, you don't need this at all. You can take that big giant roll-on thing that you sit on and use for lunch and camp, and it pops up into a tent and everything. But what we did years ago, and this, I tried to be realistic. I had given up on this little cute little box, and the box I have now is a little bit bigger. It has a gallon can of fuel, so I don't have to go refill it every 6 or 8 flights. I have most of the parts that I need in there, and it's relatively heavy. It's relatively a nuisance carrying that thing around, especially at the Nats, at the team trials, because these things, you're bleeding off so much energy just carrying equipment from the car to the field, to the car to the field, the cameras, the tripods. So one of the things I want to do for next year is I want to somehow make a compromise box. Now, I don't know what this is going to be yet, but I want to be a little more conservative. And what I was hoping I could find, in fact, Joe Adamusco had one, was a 2-quart can. And I wanted to make the box just big enough that I could hold maybe 6 or 8 of the things that I need. And it would be a little less energy carrying it around. Because, as an example, when we fly at the club field, we're quite a ways away from the car. And carrying this big heavy thing really bleeds off a lot of energy. Now, what happens when you're 18 years old? Not a big deal. You get to be 30, well, 40, now you're struggling to be a macho man. Well, at 50, you're starting to try to lighten everything up. And at 62, I'm looking to make it out of carbon fiber. So one of the things I'm going to try to do is make a very, I'll call it a realistic toolbox. And I want to organize it. But the other thing I want to do is then I don't want to constantly be bringing tons of stuff to the field that I don't really need. Because what I do, I bring it in the house, put it back in the car. Bring it in the house, put it back in the car. One of the things I'm going to try to do, because I'm 62 years old now, is cut back on the physical work it takes to do what we do. When you fly every day or every other day, cutting back on that workload means there'll be more energy for flying. And as 62 becomes 63 or 4, and you never know how many more good years you have left, and then how many mediocre years, and how many years you're just going to watch. So this is a priority thing. But the first part of it is I'm going to take all my stuff and try to get it organized. Get the 90 stuff, the 76 stuff, they're not interchangeable. The 90 is a whole different animal. So if you had, for instance, 2 engines where you had a 65 and a 76, you don't need to keep this stuff separate. But in my case, I'm trying to develop 2 things at the same time. But I'm also looking forward in the winter. This is one of the things I want to make up. Now, believe it or not, this is what was on sale at Home Depot today. You can see it has plenty of little compartments and little places to put things. Plus, the other thing it's got going for it, they had ones with permanent shelves, permanent compartments. Now, say I want to put a screwdriver or something bigger in there, or wider or fatter. These move around. Now, ironically enough, and I didn't plan it this way, these were on sale. They were normally 15 bucks each, and they were 2 for $9.95. So, needless to say, I got 2 of them. Job 1 is going to be to make 1 of them for the 76 unique parts, 1 of them for the 90 unique parts, and I'll do all this off camera because this is going to be a labor-intensive thing. But having stuff organized, when you have a lot, the more stuff you have, the more important it is to be organized, and the more things you want to bring to the field. See, I want to bring when I'm going to fly to any 90 ship, I want to have this in the car. If I'm not going to fly to 90 ship that day, I don't need this in the car. And I don't want to just leave it in the car for storage. So this is one thing I didn't do properly. In the beginning of the year, I was commingling everything, and I made this big giant box, and every time I wanted to get something, it would be at the bottom of the box. This I think is really a good investment, relatively cheap, and you pick a day like today where it's too windy to fly or you have other things to do. Getting everything organized, at the end of this day, I'll feel real good about having this organized. Now, as I'm going through the end of the email here, email and mail, this came from our good friend Rory Tennyson, and I'll keep this up by the train layout, of course. This is a very nice hat. White Pass Yukon Railroad. Now another thing he sent, and we'll check this out, the White Pass Yukon route. Anybody, of course, that has an interest in trains, I'll be glad to make them a copy of this. And one of the things Karen and I, of course, she's right now within I think 50 days of retirement. We're going to be checking out some of the train trips out west. Look at this. We've still never really traveled in certain parts of the Northwest. The only part of the country we really haven't seen, up around Oregon and Idaho and Montana, and then off into Canada. And that's where a lot of these scenic railroads are. So from Rory, you've piqued my interest here. This is one of the things we're going to be researching out, doing more of. And Rory, because I know Rory flies RC, I'll send him a copy of this Warbird 2007 video along with this. I know he'll like that. Now I also got this from Ramo. I got some Strega ARF stuff. We're going to go through this, maybe add a few minutes if we need to fill out a video or whatever. This is one of the things I love about video. Now Ramo, of course, was here this year, and he will be on the Memories of 2007, that's for sure. But now I'm going to get to see some of the action from his shop from Sweden, and he's already flown the plane. He's happy with it. He may have discovered some things we can all share. Now this is from our good friend Sam Shirata. Sam, of course, one of the top builders. He works with Bobby Brookins in that area. Now he came up with this kind of logo. He didn't want to have a logo like everybody else on his plane, but look at the final result. Check this out. Now this is certainly one of the most unique looking Stregas. And Sam, if you may remember from old videos, in fact he sent a picture here, his old Cobra with the fancy paintwork. Check out the canopy on this. The canopy is outstanding. Rich Walbridge, eat your heart out. I like this canopy as much as yours. These guys with the world of computers and graphics, the guys at Rich Oliver, of course, you can just, it's a bottomless pit of things you can put on your plane now very easily. But that's a Strega ARC right there. And the point is, what's really neat about this stuff, it's really not a lot of work to be this creative. And in my case, I don't have the computer skills to do this, but you can find a friend or somebody. I mean, there are people I know that do this, and they charge very little for laying this stuff out. In fact, sometimes you can get them to do it for free. And if you're in doubt, call Sam Shirata up. Now this is what I like. The next non-scale plane I make, I am going to have, I've got a picture in my mind of how I want the canopy to be. And I was watching this DVD, in fact I included it in on the Warbirds, of the B-58 Hustler. Look at the canopy on the B-58 Hustler, the jet. And think how that would look up on the front of a Cardinal or one of these type of planes. Now you may remember Sam with the, he had a Cobra, King Cobra. He had the green plane, the Mantis, and the finish is absolutely perfect. He is really a top level finisher. Look at some of the little details and graphics, the stripes. Everything's edged and striped. And of course, hanging in my shop, I love this canopy. That is Rich Walbridge's ship. That is a killer canopy. But we got something in our arsenal. Look at that B-58 Hustler. I'm going to start collecting some pictures of it because I really liked it. I was thinking, now that we're going into these pointy, racy looking canopy things, maybe on a Ferrari type plane, or on one of the planes I hope I live long enough to build. I want to build a plane that I have in my mind called the Oriole, kind of a little tribute to Chicky, and I want it to have some really slick looking canopy on it because it won't be a semi-scale plane, so I can have a free hand at designing it. Anyway, cool stuff. We got a lot of mail to catch up on. We got to make some carbon fiber tanks for Dave Sabon. And as I said before, we got this great block party coming up. I look forward to it each year. Now when we do the Spitfire, we're already starting to get our books in order here. Every time I talk to Joe, he's confirming my suspicions that we are going to have a great building season coming up. We have 2 or 3 contests left this year. They're all local contests, and I typically only stay for 1 round anyway because Karen usually has plans. I don't want to clog up the whole summer with contests. And typically what happens, the scoring goes crazy on the 2nd round, and I never even know who won most of the time. But it's still fun to go, still fun to hang out. But the thrust of my energy and my dreaming is going to be this Spitfire for next year. Now I figured out, use the rest of the afternoon to get organized, and those things fit right into a fuel box, so they make, like if I want to add another one or another one or another one, very convenient. We get the whole thing organized. We can put this back here. Jose and Tina are coming over tonight to pick up the shark. The shark's been confined in the garage all week. Yeah, it's nice. It's a good feeling to have this stuff organized. Good thing to have the 2 ships ready to test some of this tuned pipe. By the way, that looks pretty cool. I don't think I took pictures of how the pipe comes out of there yet. Anyway, we're gonna find out. We'll do that at the field Sunday if we get down to the field. We got a lot of things to fool with, a lot of things that should be very entertaining, but this was an important thing, getting organized every year. I always look forward to that day where, and now we start making a mess, and a year from now it'll all be a mess again. Now it's the end of a long day, and I'm waiting for Jose and Tina to get here to pick up the shark, and then we're going to go get some Indian food or some Mexican food. I don't know what he wants to have. But late at night like this, I like to just think back over this year of 2007. And boy, Jose's plane being lost certainly became a big part of our memories of 2007, that's for sure. Maybe he didn't plan it that way, but that's the way it worked. And as I'm pulling out some of this raw footage for the 2007 memories, I just think some of the other things that were really pretty cool, getting those 2 little fish on my birthday. Karen's granite kitchen. Oh man, the kitchen. And late at night out here when you look up at the moon and you look up at the trees, just think about how lucky we all are. Not only me, everybody. Just to live in a wonderful time and have a great sport that we enjoy sharing. And it's funny at night like this, it looks like the fish are swimming in midair. It really is an eerie thing. 2007. What a year it was. And I always have this frog here to remind me. My mom, when she was alive, she loved frogs. She used to collect frogs, and I think she was the biggest frog collector I ever met. You almost can't believe this. Poor Jose, he's been on the road. He left at 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. He's been on the road 4 hours and 15 minutes to get from where he lives to here. He's not here yet. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go out to dinner. The restaurants are all closing. And he just to come get his Yashenko shark. Unbelievable. So he's been whistling his way up the turnpike. He got off at the wrong exit, went into the worst ghetto in Newark. I can't. But he's found his way. He's less than a half an hour away. Do you believe this? Well, by this time tomorrow, this whole block will be filled with kids and swimming pools, and there'll be all of the stuff is in Mike's backyard, ready for a big block party. But in the meantime, poor Jose can't find the house. This can't be Jose. This can't be. It's got to be somebody else. Could it be Jose? Can it be Jose? It can't be Jose. I'm glad I'm not paying you by the hour.
3 hours and 45 minutes.
Tina, are you as humorous about this as he is?
Yes, nothing.
Well, she took a nap. I got the...
Yeah,
This is what was on the windshield of my car in Indiana. Windy. The airline lost my clothes, they lost my plane, they lost Yashenko. A brother needs help. I don't have any brothers. I only got sisters. Tell him. Christmas Day, wrap that up and give it to him.
141.
Here's his damn shark right here. Look at this.
He said it got damaged somehow.
Oh yeah, he busted it up and everything.
Really?
Unbelievable.
It is.
Now the kick is, I told him when he brought the fuel here, I would have gladly taken it out from him. No charge. Free.
The plane and all?
Everything. Just what, even his damn shoes that was stinking up my van. The whole thing. The whole thing.
Stuffed them in a plastic bag.
They were under the seat where Jacobone was sleeping.
Oh my God.
Now when you get your sailboat.
I'm trying to catch you. We gotta get food.
Nah, catch, just reach in and grab one.
Are they to the point that you can actually like touch them, or
Oh,
do they
sure.
run from you?
Wendy, something happened here. They're right.
Whoa, we had a day you can't imagine how nice this day turned out to be. This is our annual 2007 block party. People are still coming in, coolers are still coming in. It's the block party. We look forward all year to this. Get together with our neighbors, cook hot dogs, hamburgers, the kids all interact. The women talk about how great husbands we are, among other things. Very low key and a whole lot of fun every year. So what do we do at these things? Here we go, they're returning DVDs. Here we got some more stuff. Got some more books being returned. And we got another. One of our neighbors, Porno for Women. This is a great book. This is a great book. There's a lot of cool things in here. Want to snuggle? Who bought this? Sit down. There are ball games on all the time. How can we watch figure skating? This actually is a pretty cool book. Anyway, 2007.
Are you doing it every day?
I do it every day.
One of the benefits of
I'm trying to get up to 4. You know, 2 in the morning and 2 in the
I think that's great.
around 2 or 3 foot.
This is one of the high points of this year's party. Ted's going to get up on top of this and jump off. He's still working on rebuilding his house here. 2 or 3 houses down from us. Doing a fabulous restoration job. You got to see this up close to believe. Copper gutters, really high quality work. He's been working on it, I'm guessing about it. Ted, how long have you been working on this? About a year?
Here I am.
Over a year.
I thought I'd go far away.
Some of our future Yankees stars, Met stars. And our cook. One of the grills is already lit. They're going. Now, we do this party every year. The neighbors always bring something. Even number houses bring certain things, odd number houses. Ooh. The grills are going.
We got.
You said you became good friends. They really sense that you're not a threat. You know, all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
no, I mean, the first time I saw him, he didn't like me at all. And
But I thought I could get out here, get a couple of preliminary runs on the things that we're testing. We have one of our test tune pipes in the plane. And this is the objective here, is to get a quieter exhaust. so that we have the option of flying at the team trials with the 90 in the future. Of course, we don't know where this is going. The muffler that we have is certainly fine for AMA flying and for flying at local contests and Brodax, but the team trials, our exhaust system was just a little bit too loud. Now this is a prototype that I had made up and never even tested, and I don't really know if this is going to be what I want, but at some point in time I'm going to try to, if this works out, try to make up a mandrel with bends in it so that I can tuck more of the pipe in. I don't like the fact that too much of the pipe is sticking out, but this will give me an idea of how the dimensions on this pipe are going to run once I get it inside the plane, and the sound level. Now the pipe has no baffle at all. This is just basically a big open can. Now, after several test flights, two things were apparent. The single stinger on this is too restrictive, and I really didn't like the way the look of the pipe sticking out like it's laying an egg like that. So I need to go home and I need to evaluate. One of the things I want to evaluate here is, and I've got a throwaway day because the wind is already kicking up and we got cleaning boy here banging around, making a mess, blowing dirt all over everything. But I did get a couple preliminary runs on this, and it's very apparent this is not what I want. I want to have that pipe tucked in a lot better, and I want to have it a lot less restrictive, maybe two stingers just like we have on the original header. But at least I got to use, well, a day that I normally wouldn't get any fly in here, and we did get one of these tests out of the way today, so that's one thing in our favor. Now, I also got to test one other thing that you can't imagine this idiot with this machine here making such a mess. I got to test, this pipe has a pressure fitting in it, and I wanted to just test it and see if there was any benefit. We haven't really done that. This engine has been so user-friendly, I didn't think we needed it. Well, it doesn't look like we do, but now we have the choice on this pipe anyway. But I think what I'm going to have to do is make up a copy of this pipe and put a bend in it, make a kink in it, make a bend. I'm not sure. That's going to require some thought and a rainy day of work or whatever. But in the meantime, if I wanted to fly this, I could just use the header. Or even better, I just go over to the van and take out the Testarossa, which I just got to readjust the handle for when Jose was flying it. I have something I want to test on the Testarossa. That's a very significant thing. So as long as we have cleaning boy here, you can't believe it. Every time you come to the flying field, there's an issue. They're putting sewer lines in, they're cleaning. He's got to clean exactly while I'm here. It's unbelievable. Anyway, this was one test that I thought was significant. It added to my database, and I think I know now with the second of the pipes that I'm going to make pretty much where I want it to go. And this, by the way, was relatively quiet. It was like similar to a tuned pipe, so I think by opening up, maybe even just putting two stingers on this exhaust, I'll get what I wanted. Well, we'll see when we get back to the shop. In the meantime, there's something I want to test on the Testarossa as long as we're having a throwaway day. Actually, while we're doing that, the sun peeks out from behind the clouds. They may get a couple flights on the Testarossa too. There's something really significant that I wanted to find out, and today's a good day to find it out. Now, as long as I have this time at the field, did not expect to have this kind of a day, but it's gotten gusty, and it's not going to be a good day. Certainly not a day we want to go practice in bottoms or anything, or trying to work on any geometry. But what we do want to do, there's another little thing that has plagued the Testarossa from day one. And this was a little experiment Bill Rich told me to try. I looked at Howard Rush's plane and noticed that his vent was way out, maybe 1/4 of an inch. And he said he didn't really get any fuel up along the nose. Well, this plane, every 3rd or 4th flight, and it doesn't happen every time, it happened sometime in Texas, then the problem went away, but it constantly comes back. Is this vent bleeds at the end of a flight? I don't know when. There'll be raw fuel up on the nose, and it's ruined the paint on the nose of the plane. So when I looked at Bill Rich's plane, and I asked Bill about it, And he said to try this. He had this on his plane where the vent is now facing into the airstream, which kind of eliminates the uniflow effect. I don't know if that's going to work. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but it's on a throwaway day like today, it's worth a try anyway. So if we can come at it this day at least knowing something. Now I've already carved up a little, like, it looks like a pistachio shell scoop. Another thought that several people had the idea that you just cover the uniflow up so that the air going over this doesn't act like a siphon. Now what I think happens is, because we're using 14 and 15, sometimes bigger than 14-inch props, what happens is there's a tremendous air blast going around, a circular airflow around the fuselage, and it from time to time can just siphon this out. And I tried a lot of things, making a little cap with a pinhole. That didn't really work. It minimized it, but it was still bleeding fuel out. But it'll be interesting to see if this has any benefit. Of course, if it doesn't, just pull it right off. And then if this doesn't solve the problem, I'm going to put that little pistachio cap, and the paint is already drying down at the shop. I don't even have to worry about the paint drying. And so on a throwaway day, I think we've learned, and this is what I'm going to be trying to do from now until the end of the year, is try to do all the little experiments that I really didn't have time to do. I mean, there's only so much time you have. You don't really have unlimited bottomless pits of time. But now the air is going to start getting cooler. The problem is in the fall like this, we usually get an hour or two of good air and then it gets breezy, and we usually give the good air to Brian and to John DeTavio. But if I can get another muffler, well, we have a pretty good ballpark number on where this pipe wants to be now. And I know probably what I can and can't do realistically. And the next thing is going to be to work on this bleeding out, this issue with the fuel bleeding out. And I also thought what I'd do with this is, when I'm back to shop, put a pressure fitting in the pipe, which only takes 10 minutes, and have the option. See, here's the option. When you're running pipe pressure or muffler pressure, there's no bleed at all. But what it does, it softens up the 2/4 brake quite a bit. Softens it up more than I like. I like to have a hard brake. Richard Oliver likes a soft brake. Everybody's got something that they like, and I kind of like that hard Tiger 60 type of brake. But when you go back and look at the video even of the team trials, you notice there's a lot of different motor runs that seem to be very successful. And so it's what the pilot is comfortable with, just like that old thing we always talk about, shoes. Now, the good thing about having two planes at the field today, I'll probably get twice as much done. I have quite a bit of time. I can just, assuming I don't have, cleaning boy cleaned the parking lot. Guess what? He cleaned everything except the flying circle. Isn't that lovely? Made a mess, dust all over the van, but what are you going to do? But anyway, this is the next little test that I want to run. I have time today, and possibly I got to remember to readjust the handle, because the last time this plane flew, Jose had readjusted the handle for his unique flying style. Anyway, let's see if we can get some of that done today before we leave. Now, another thing I wanted to test today, and because I got to see the plane fly from outside the circle, I noticed that the wing was up a little bit when Jose was flying, but I didn't want to change it, because what happens is you change it, you go too far, then it's not enough, then it's too far, not enough, too far. But we didn't want to really change it, and Jose was comfortable with it the way it was, so we didn't really bother. But now, once I determined that this is going to be needing a little bit of a tweak, I'll have a lot of choices. I can go into the horn. This has an adjustable horn, and tweak that flap up a little bit. But a lot of times the tab is just giving you an indication of that something, like an example in this case, what I think's happened from this thing being in the van for 2 summers now, or most of 2 summers. I might have a warped flap. It could be one of these flaps has taken on a little warp or a twist, because it never needed that in the past. But of course, that's why it's nice to have the adjustable horn. And I'm not sure if that's going to be what I want to do, but here's the thing. It's always nice to have choices. And I never really liked having the outside piece of the flap on a linkage. I always thought that kind of looked like something I didn't like anyway, especially on a semi-scale plane. And we have to really finalize what we're going to do about that flap horn, because on the Spitfire, those flaps are gigantic. They're much bigger, much wider and everything. And luckily, Joe has gotten some really good sea grain wood to make the flaps out of. And I remember you having this wood was not that good. But possibly in the future, what I'm going to do is, I don't know, settle on how I want to make this horn adjustment. And on a pipe plane, you can do it through the bottom of the fuselage. This one, I go in right here with a 440 wrench. There's a lot of ways to do it. But the problem is, every time you do that flap tweak, and again, this is part of what I want to finish on the end of the year, you almost always, it's like when you bend horns. When you bend horns, you always go too far, not enough, too far, not enough. And about 10 times later, you get it just right. Then what happens, you're flying around for a month, you leave the plane in a van on a hot day, it goes back to where it was. So that was the whole idea of having those mechanically adjustable horns. But I'm still not happy with that design. I still wish I could come up with something better. I really can't so far. But each one that I do, the Novanta is far better than this one. And I think the Spitfire one will be even better. Anyway, we want to try. I want to get a couple flights on this. Check and see if this venting issue is of any value at all. And if it isn't, we got the pistachio shell when I get back home. Now, as this day is wearing on, and it looks like it's going to rain again in a minute, we have learned a couple of little things that I didn't realize were going to be put in a bank today. One of the things we learned is our little T-fitting, and you can buy these little T-fittings, of course. They eliminate the oil on the nose, but the problem is, there's a problem. It mutes the motor run the same way muffler pressure does. So what I'm going to do is go back to the old system where I just cap off the top vent and let the bottom stay open. And that seems to be, you get the most motor run at least. Well, we're going to find out as we go back, but now that we have every place except where we're flying perfectly clean, it's unbelievable. But we have learned a few things. Now, the trim tab isn't big enough. That was the first thing. I need to make a bigger trim tab when I get back to the shop. And or just tweak the flap and hope that I get it close to right. But it always bothers, there's something bothers me about getting all this oil on the nose of the plane, because in the past I've never had to deal with that. That hasn't really ever been an issue up until the last couple of planes. Actually, up until the planes that run 14-inch props. And they must really blow air over the nose. There must be like a little tornado going on up there or something. Again, we're learning. Every little thing we learn. Now about the motor run on a Spitfire, and I still want to get a fitting for the pipe in there. But on a Spitfire, what I want to have is choices. I want every possible choice. So anything I can work on, even if it's on the 76, it doesn't really matter right now. It's still information we can put in the bank. And I'd hate to have a beautiful semi-scale plane with all this fuel blowing down the nose every other flight. And sometimes you don't get it for a whole day at a time. Now, in the course of this session, and you really can't make this stuff up, I was changing props, changing props, changing props, changing props, shooting video, blah, 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 blah. And this guy just kept coming around, one of these, I don't know what you would call them, spectators, and asking questions and talking and yapping and talking and yapping. I was not paying attention. And what I really didn't do is properly tighten the prop and spinner. And let me look carefully at what happened. This could happen to you. Never get distracted and leave the prop loose, no matter how many people are talking to you. This really could have been dangerous. And sometimes it starts on the first flip, Chicky. So here's our little safety tip of the day. And I know I got distracted. We had a lot of stuff happening with this sweeper guy on the field, and we have some of the people that don't speak English asking questions and things, but it's really my fault. I got distracted. And that can happen to anybody. I cut my hand up pretty good, in fact. And the thing that was real important is the carbon fiber prop didn't take out an eye or something. That could have really been dangerous. Anyway, there's your tip for the day. Tighten, tighten, tighten the prop, especially when you're using carbon fiber props. That's their house. My father-in-law Bill and some of the guests. This is what it's like to be a successful rock star. Most of these people are people that Stacy works with in show business and in her real career as TV producer, so we thought we'd give a little footage of how the other half lives.
Where's Matt?
Look at the backyard they have. What a backyard.
When am I going? No, you go, put the bullshit when you I said, I feel better. Better because nice to meet you. Ryan, nice to meet you too. Want to see you soon? Wait, hold on. I have to know how
Looks like it's good. Yeah, there's lots of stuff to eat right now. Okay, sure. I'll make you live, right?
We're just trying to see how the other half lives.
Do you see Rob's dad? I'm in front.
Yeah, they're out on the front. Bill's in front.
We took Murphy to school. What do you want to do? I'll take a drink. What do you want? Okay, something.
Can we do this? I like it. If I have it. See, you're in a bad spot. Try to dump this. Okay. Everybody stand back, please. Stand back.
Water be fine, yeah. Water be fine.
Lisa's. Have you seen Lisa's son? I saw them.
They left 5 minutes ago. I would have loved to see him. Right when we were walking out there.
They were telling me about Cafe.
The mayor of Rutherford, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
How are you?
Oh, good, good.
And he lives right next door, so how bad? I don't know if this is politically correct to live next to the mayor. I don't know if that's going on.
No big advantages.
No, he doesn't get free taxes or anything?
At least they haven't been raided.
Not yet.
Jersey boys on Wednesday. Oh, no, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. Well, maybe I'll have to get some.
Maddie, you got to come see the fish. They're this big already.
How are you?
Oh my God, he swims with the big fish and everything.
Raul?
Raul the terrorist. Come on, give him a hot dog or something.
Give us some water.
Raul's under the table now.
Looking for food.
He just wants food. He doesn't want love.
Boy, he knows how to get the women to take care of him. Look at this.
He saw I didn't have any meat. He's like, all right.
He's very mellow. He wrote out the baby I never see the meat. No, I don't see it.
She's a doctor. She's a lawyer.
Yeah, I heard that.
She's a district attorney. I didn't know. He doesn't speak to anybody. He's here about 20 years. He doesn't speak to nobody.
So after a great party by Stacy's, we got some time here on what looks like it's going to be another rainy day. I wanted to get pressure fittings in both of the pipes to add to my options for testing. And this is something we haven't really done yet. We haven't really needed it, but well, we're at the point now where I want to test a lot more things, especially on the 90. And as long as I'm doing it, I may as well do the parallel tests on the 76. And what I have for the Testarossa is one pipe that runs at 18 inches and runs relatively high RPM. One pipe that's much longer, actually acting more like a muffler than a pipe. And that runs when we run the rev up 14.5s and the higher pitch props. So we've got a speed, kind of a speed, high RPM setup, relatively, well, around 8,000, 8,200 RPM setup, and maybe a 9,500 RPM setup. And they'll both have the choice next time we get out to the field. They'll both have the choice of running pipe pressures, and that's one of the things we want to include in our tests as we round out this 2007 flying season. Now, I thought I'd mention this. While we were out at the team trials, I was using what amounts to be, these are from Home Depot. They make a big, I don't know, a big, and I'll show the container. I bought a whole bunch of these thinking these would be a good choice. And what I found out, and these were from Home Depot. This is multi-purpose, yada, 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 yada. They give you a million of them for 10 bucks or something. And because I was running low and I didn't have time to go down to Nassau Electric, what happened? I bought a whole bunch of these. Now, it turns out, here's what happens. They break when you use them on the header. They're not real good in terms of heat. So what I did is I went back to Nassau Electric. It's an electrical supply place, and you notice the ones they sell at an electrical supply place have a lot better grip. They have a little steel tongue in there, and they're made out of, you can even feel it, they're a much stiffer material. So by retrofitting these, and what happened at the team trials, we had one fail on one of Jose's practice flights, and it wound up floating around in a plane, and I didn't know what the heck it was. And then Ken Tyser said he saw it hanging out the back, the grill of the plane. He was afraid it was going to get caught up in the controls, so we had an issue with it. Now what I did, and I didn't realize, you know, that this plastic, these are really low-end, cheesy things. The ones you buy in an electrical supply store, and Ken Tyser, by the way, has a website where he bought some real high-end ones that were probably like 3 times the price, but they had a different material. See, all nylon is not created the same. And what happens is, I was just hoping that these would work because I didn't have time to shop. I really missed the boat, and I paid the price, as you can tell now. The thing is, when you're dealing with this much maintenance and this much flying and this many things going on at the same time, you leave a prop loose, you leave a zip tie loose, you leave a screw loose, anything that can come back to haunt you, and believe me, it can haunt you. It's just, that's one of the things. So I'm going to put it all back together. We're hoping tomorrow's going to be a fly-in day, although the way the weather's been lately, by the time Brian gets done with his flying, and John and all the guys that use the good air, it just goes away in a hurry. And when it doesn't, we always have something idiotic like the sweeper go through, or the people that don't speak English driving out there, and it can really be annoying. It's really annoying in a lot of ways. It's hard to describe. Anyway, I'm going to get this put together and just hope tomorrow's a better day. That prop thing was pretty exciting, by the way. Now today they predicted a few drops of rain. It's unbelievable, it's been raining all day. But it gave me a little bit of time to do some of the work that I wanted to do to prep up the 2 Ferrari planes. So now what I have is, I have the ability to run pipe pressure or no pipe pressure. It just gives me one more option. And one of the things, of course, connecting the pipe pressure to the upper vent totally eliminates the oil all over the side of the plane. But of course the price is it mutes the motor run some. And again, I pitched up a couple of 3-bladed props. I really love having everything organized like this. This really makes it easy. Got my spare 3-blade ready. What a great way to use a rainy day. They say into every life a little rain must fall, and they're right. And it's fallen. That's all there is to it. And I don't know where this is all going to wind up. Now normally when it rains this much, about an hour from now we're going to get a call from the tenants that they're swimming. The bottom floor of the house typically gets about this much water in it. And so it may be a day or so before, well, we don't know yet, whether we're going to get back here or whether we're just going to be able to look forward to a pleasant day tomorrow. Oh, that's really raining out there. You just can never win. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I wonder, like Noah's Ark out here. Now that pipe, and that's one of the next projects we're going to work on. I was thinking possibly, see, I have a whole bucket full of pipes that are ready to put together. And I thought maybe I'd just keep this one. Again, I need to think about it as we end up another rainy day. This is part of the problem we always have. Now if I put a kink in it here, see this pipe doesn't have a baffle, so it's not a problem. And it was plenty quiet the way it was. It was not an issue at all the way it was. So possibly if I can put a bend in it, what I do is take a pie slice out, and then with the pie slice tip that back in and add a stinger. Well, see what that's going to do is just going to give me something to think about tonight. And while I'm running the bilge pump over at the rental property. But we'll use every day we can. And I guess part of this whole thing that I like to pass along if I can is when you have these throwaway days, or days it's too windy to fly, or days it's too this or too that, or you have too many block parties or something else, there's always a way to manipulate the day so you can get something out of it. It's not a total loss. In this case today, I'm going to finish up. I will at least have added the feature of having the option of pipe pressure in both of my soft pipe and hard pipe. And possibly, well, and again, it depends what time the tenants are going to call for the rowboat here. Possibly I can get this pipe bent before the day, or at worst tomorrow. And that'll give me two things to test on the same day. That'll be nice. But again, we try. You know, a lot of people, and I don't know if I'm good at this or other people are bad, but a day like today, it would have just gone to waste. So we're getting something done anyway. Now another thing that may come, and we're expecting it today or tomorrow, Rich Walbridge is sending me his 76 to, he had some issues with it. It wasn't easy starting. And he wanted me to look at it, and that's going to be what I'm going to do, is put it in a Spitfire and fly it. That'll be another thing to see if I had the engine today. A rainy day like this would be a good day to do it, but we'll work on for Rich as soon as we get it. And if we can help him out, that'll be great. Now, during the course of this rainy day, and boy, we really had some rain, we got to watch some footage from Ramo Bark. He sent me a couple of tapes, and there's some cute footage on it, some footage of his home and house, his shop, and I'll take a few highlights out of there just to fill out what amounts to be a rainy day here. And Ramo, thank you very much for the sharing your home, your shop, and whatever with us. Interesting stuff from Sweden from Ramo Bark.
So this is it. And the garden is out to the fence there. This part of the garden is more like forest type of garden with huge trees, high trees. You see up there. Up there, flagpole and the flag. Flowers blooming. Yes. Roses. Bigger rudder, so it will fit this larger fin. Okey-doke. Okay, I started with my fuselage, and what I thought would be
handy to have on DVD is the way I make the cowling and nose ring. You see, I divided the nose ring there, and there you have the cat. And this is how it looks like disassembled. There's the cowling. I just simply glue it with epoxy. I roughed it up with 80 grit paper, the glass fiber cowling, and then I glue it with 5 minutes epoxy. It gives me a way to take out the fuel tank when the wing is installed. We'll see how it works. I think it will work fine. Okay, now I made a gigantic step. This Strega is ready for its maiden flight. I have put the decals on or my number, but that will come later on. I have to decide today if I can use this airplane coming Saturday. It's Monday today. No, it's Tuesday. Actually my birthday, August 14th. So it would be nice if I can make the maiden flight with this plane today. And as you can see, I have no spinner for the moment. These props, zinger props, they are so wide here in the prop hub, so I have no spinner that I can that suits those spinners. So I guess I need to modify these props somehow. I have to talk to you, Windy, about it. But this is like an ordinary Strega, I guess, Strega ARF. A little bit less than 17 ounces, so I guess that's normal. I have Ruyets 76 and a metal tank and adjustable ray rudder. So hope I can make the maiden flight today. It's a little bit late, but we will try. Undrar om inte jag skulle kunna nästan köra.
Jag kommer över här. Mm.
Okay, we have tightened the screws. Putting the cowl back on.
Hur mycket film är det kvar? Sen
Ja. Okay, now we are ready for this little ARF's maiden flight. We are going to put it in the air for the very first time. So wish us luck. That's looking good, I think.
I have a 6.5 ounce tank in it, and I guess I can change it to 6 ounce because this was 7 minutes 45 seconds, and that's absolutely too much. And I will save some weight also to do that. So I think I will change to a 6 ounce tank. Otherwise, it feels very much like home. A friend I have been flying before, and I guess it's because I flew yours, Strega. I don't know how it's on the wings. I have a feeling that on level flight, right wing tip is a little bit up, but I will see that later on when I look on this DVD. Otherwise, I didn't dare to do so much maneuvers because we have sunset here, and I had the sun right in my face. So we'll take another flight before it gets too dark here, and see how it works.
So it's a good plane?
Seems to be a good plane, yes. It's now less than, it's 70 ounces, and I guess it will be a little bit lighter. So rape rudder and taped hinge lines, 2 ounces of wing tip weight. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
And you're going to change the propeller later, or?
Later on. I have changed, done the changes that you Windy recommended. Landing gears are ½ inch longer and bended forward. I have a largest fin and rudder. I made a new stab and new elevators because the one that came with the box was too crooked. Yeah, good plane.
Yes.
And I flew my Intrepid, and this airplane is too heavy. Too heavy to fly good. Now I use it as a test bank for my engines. So I have a Rojet 61 with pipe and 3-bladed volley prop, 12 and 4.5, 4.25 is it? It is. And by the way, here is my Strega, built the kit Strega. So the only thing I have to do with this plane is to tissue the fuselage. Otherwise it's almost done. I need to put some finish on it. Here is my next project. It's a Strega Orf. But this tab and also elevators that are here. They are, I don't know if you can see it, maybe, but they are too crooked. So I actually talked with John Brodek, and he will send me some new ones. Meanwhile, before I get those new stabs and elevators, I started to make own stab the way Windy does it. So this is the I can show you my shop. This is it's hot today. As you can see outside, it's sunny weather. And this is a souvenir from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I need a lot of liquid today, water or soft drink. So that's a big one, good to have here in the shop. There under, you can see I'm an RC plane. It's a trainer. Tools. It's a little bit messy here right now. Here I have Windy DVDs. So, I'll take a tour around my property here. It's my backyard. There I have my shop. Hallå?
Vad gör du?
Filmar. Jonathan. Going for a bicycle ride, I guess. There's my neighbor house.
Enjoyed sharing that little video, and thanks to Ramo Bark. We're hoping at some future time we'll be able to visit him in Sweden, of course, and his family. We really enjoyed their company this year. Now, and of course we enjoyed Brodak's every year. But this I got finished now, and it's just a thing to see if this is going to be of any value. It's temporarily glued on. I didn't want to put it on permanently, and it'll probably blow off after the first flight. But the idea is it covers up the uniflow vent in a way it'll hopefully avoid or minimize the siphoning effect, and I don't know if that's really going to be the case or not. We're certainly going to have to find out here. But that's a project for the next time we get to fly. Right now we got another project just sitting here cooking. The postman just brought in, and it's from Rich Woolbridge, his motor, and he had again, I have to read the note and see what his issue with that might have been, and we're gonna, if all goes well, we may even get it done today. Get it tucked into the Spitfire and bring it out to the field and see if we can get some flights on it. But again, that's whenever you have a motor issue, and I try to diagnose it for many people in the past. I've been successful, I'd say most of the time. But what you really need, the first thing you need to know is the history of the motor. You need to know if it's been taken apart, what fuel's been running it. And so I'm hoping all of the things we're going to need to do a little diagnosis on this are in the box. Okay, the first thing I want to do, I got the old test stand out. I figured I'd run this because it looks like it's going to rain any minute out there. This is the parts from Rich Woolbridge, the pipe. the engine. I wanted to take the header off, look in and see if the liner is in either crooked or backwards as the first step. Also, we want to put some knurls on this part. That's one thing that it'll get a better grip as it goes into the tubing. This is not our favorite kind of tubing. I'll give him a piece of our tubing. This is so hard that you almost can't get it to stick, although some people do. But I like the red stuff a lot better. But we're going to try to set this up in a way just as if it were our engine. But the first thing, I want to pull the header off and I want to look and see if the liner is in either crooked or backwards. There's a lot of people, and of course over the years I've done this a lot of times, where people would send me a motor and say, well, it doesn't run right, and I look and they had taken it apart and the liner looks the same frontwards or backwards. If you're not real careful, it's real easy to get it in backwards. Okay, so the liner was not in backwards or even off any, so we know that's not going to be one of the issues. Now, if you're looking to check this on your own, remember, any two-cycle engine, as you turn this and as you go through the compression stroke, the first port that's going to open is the exhaust port. The first one that opens is the exhaust port. Okay, so now we'll button this back up, and then we want to check. The other thing we can check is if this is, we'll find out right away, if the spray bar hole is not lined up perfectly. Now usually you can look right through there and out the other side. See, I can't look through there now, so that's a problem. It may be that the problem is in this part right here. But everything else is just about as kosher as can be. Now put the head back on using a star pattern, just like putting an automotive head on. 14 inch-pounds is about the torque, but you can pretty much do it by feel. It's best always to do it when the engine is cold, never when it's hot. And never just tighten one screw at a time and work your way around a circle. You want to go in a star pattern. Okay, the next thing is to nail up this header. When you don't do this, you got to tighten the zip ties way too tight. Usually they pop in flight. There's always a chance you can lose the connection. Oil all over your plane. This is cheap insurance. Okay, the next thing, we got this knurled. We've checked that the liner's not in backwards. Next thing I want to check is, I want to see that the hole here should be facing directly forward into the venturi. And that there's no little pieces of dirt, schmutz, anything that a filter should remove in there. Now anytime you're working on these little brass parts, couple little tips and tricks. Always use either the perfect wrench that fits or a nut driver. You never want to over tighten this part. Now there's a little nylon seal in there, and if you over tighten it, you squash the seal. Now when we have this apart, I want to mark on our spray bar, I want to put a clear mark where that hole is relative to this part, so I can know when I'm facing that hole completely forward. Another thing to check is that there isn't any some contaminant or piece of a leaf or a stone or something that might have worked its way past the filter in that little hole. If that hole is free and clear, and this hole is clear, it should draw fuel normally. If this is offset, it makes the needle way too sensitive. Now the venturi size I always start with is a 210. 210 is the smallest I would want it, 215 the biggest. While I have it chucked in a lathe, I have all the drills numbered and marked or whatever size, but we'll start with a 210. Now you can always open it up bigger, but it's always better to start with a size you know is going to work. And 210 seems to be a good starting spot for my motors, my planes, my weather, my shop conditions. We could always open this up to 215, 220 if we want, but 210 is a good starting point. Now anytime you open up a Venturi, you want to check that you haven't left a burr on the edge of that hole. Anything that acts as a burr there can be a problem. Now because this is such a tight fit, it's always good to put a little bit of machinist oil around the lip of the Venturi before you install it. Now that notch should be facing perfectly forward, not down, not up. Let's see if we can get this on the camera. Now the next thing, if you notice, there's a little nylon washer. Put a drop of machinist oil on that. You don't want to crush or squash that washer. Now the needle valve should never be longer. In other words, if the fuselage ends here, you want to leave 1/4 inch or so, but you shouldn't have a big needle valve sticking out because it turns into a tuning fork at certain RPMs. Well, since Rich has already bent this one, I would have felt better if this was a little bit longer, but you always could pick up another needle valve from Dub or Rich and just do that. Alright, now I put a little bit of machinist oil on the threads, of course, because I don't want to booger up. Here's the thing I don't want to do. I don't want to booger up that little... I already put the oil in there. I want that to thread in nice and not make a big mess on the nylon bushing. Now Rich, you're lucky. I just organized all my stuff because I want to get a more... See the way this needle valve is so short here? I'm cutting my fingers trying to adjust it. And what I want to do is I'm just going to give you one of my needle valves. You can shorten it, but it's a lot longer. It'll be easier for me to run it. And this is too short to even put in a Spitfire. So I'm going to just send this one back to you and give you one of mine. Now my needle valve threaded in there, of course it's too long, but you see the difference how long this is? This is way too short. The length, and it was just too hard to twist it when you had to, you don't want this to be flopping around loose. When you made it tight enough, cinched it up, well, that was the problem. I think this was part of the problem of what was happening, is this was just too difficult to turn. I don't know, maybe it wasn't bottomed out. But here's what you need to do now. You need to bottom this out so it doesn't turn anymore. Of course, don't force it with pliers. Open this up roughly 3 turns. 1, 2, 3. Now because we don't know where this motor, how much time it is on, we'll just run it rich for a tank or 2 of fuel. 3.5 will usually get it running. And this, I will just return this to you, but I would seriously think just get another needle valve, a spare one from Dub, or I'm going to give you this one, and when you do get one from Dub you can send me this one back. That's one from my ships, and I like to leave it just a little bit longer. Well, I guess with this one you could solder a piece of tubing on or something. Not sure. Anyway, I think that's pretty much ready to put into our test stand, and let's see what we got. Now, it wasn't that long ago that we organized all this stuff, and boy, does it pay. On a day like today, if I had this stuff scattered all over the universe, this made doing this job maybe an hour, hour and a half, and it would have been 2 hours just to find the parts. Now, the next step on this is, again, Les has taken his good tool, good test stand, but this one is certainly adequate for doing this kind of work. Now we do the same thing to this part of the pipe. Just roughing it up with an engraving tool, and I'm going to give Rich a soft rubber coupler, one of the ones, and by the way Rich, you can get these from Warren Walker if you need some. I'll give you a spare one too. Now here's a neat thing where you can use up these Home Depot zip ties. Now what I want to do, I want to set the pipe, and notice it goes up over the header. I want to set it 18 inches, glow plug, to where the baffle starts, which is right there. 18 inches is a good starting point. Now somewhere around 18 inches is what I always find as the best place to start. Make it a little bit longer if the plane's getting too peppy, too frisky. 1/4 inch shorter if you want a little more power. But what happens, then it starts to run away. Anything under 18, it starts to get so powerful that on the wing over pull out and things, it can just get too zippy. Now we don't care about these zip ties now because we're going to just be running this on a bench. But I would not want to be using these in a plane. I want the black or the white ones for inside the plane. And as a side benefit, this soft coupler material, and again this comes from Warren Walker, this holds up and is a lot easier to get the zip ties on. What happens with that hard rubber, you've got to have like a vice grip to get them on. And yeah, you can, and I noticed most of the guys that use the blue, they wind up with 2 or 3 zip ties on. And this material is about 1/3 lighter. Now I want to do everything using PowerMaster fuel. I'm going to take the fuel right out of my can to make sure that isn't one of the variables that might be an issue. And we got a 14.5 rev up, cut to 13 as a good prop for this kind of run. What I want to do first is run basically 1 tank. This is a 16-ounce tank, by the way, so we'll let it run about 2 minutes between runs. Not sure if this is a brand new motor. It's been run a few times, but not going to hurt anything, that's for sure. Now I'm going to... It's semi-flooded out here. I got a little bit too much fuel in it. I can feel it bumping, which is just about... And the needle's open a little further than it should be. All right, we're going to clear this fuel out, and it'll be... Okay, so after running this, it looks like it was 3.5, 3.25. Now I can cinch this nut down just a little bit. I like to leave it loose while it's on the bench because I really don't want to do it by hand even, and just using my wrench just tight enough that I have a little drag on it, but not squashing that nylon, that little seal that's in there. Now, you saw what happened. This is what happened inside the plane. That's why we're not going to bother. I'm not going to fool with this because we're going to put it in a Spitfire. I'll run it 1 or 2 more times just to get some time on a motor because I don't know how much time is on a motor. It'll be ready to put in a plane, and we'll get the prop that we're going to fly on it. It certainly feels and sounds as strong and in every way as good as mine is. Now, the one thing I found out over the years from having done a lot of these, let me get that. The one thing is, they are as consistent as anything I've ever seen. They are just ridiculous consistent. When we had the Orphan, we were putting one motor for Brian's motor to. It didn't even matter. There didn't seem to be like a good one or a bad one or a tight one or a loose one. They all seem really pretty good. Now, when it's hot like this, a lot of times it doesn't start on the first flip. But I don't want it to bump and throw the prop either, especially given the fact we lost the prop the other day. So by flipping it backwards, I can tell if it's flooded. Now, as soon as it catches, I know it's going to go. Okay, it's dry now. I can see the fuel coming up. 2 chokes guarantees you're going to have fuel in there. Now, because our fuel tank is low, the fuel is running right back in there. So we used half a tank of that fuel already. Okay, so now we want to open up the needle because we're sucking up the last half of that fuel. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's ready to put in a Spitfire, and we'll, if we get out to fly it tomorrow. And I think the only issue that I found that even makes any sense at all is that I needed this to be a little bit longer, but certainly if you want to break your fingers on the other one, what you'll wind up doing is getting all chewed up. So given that, this is adjusted now, this is ready. Actually, just in the change of the prop, I like to knurl the washer, or get an aluminum knurled washer. Use the steel shaft and a steel nut, at least for the start of what you're doing. And for sure, don't use these Home Depot zip ties. Maybe you could use them back here. They seem to hold up back there, but the one that's on the header, in a flight or two or a run or two, is almost always gone. So that's ready. As far as I'm concerned, Rich, that's ready to put in the Spitfire. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to get Rich Walbridge's engine in. Now, when I had this set at 18 inches, I'm going to have to knurl some more of this header, because typically they cut an inch off, but that's okay. I'd rather leave it long. I'll knurl up another inch so that when this goes on, you can find that 18-inch spot very conveniently. And we need to pull out, take this apart, pull out the engine and package. This is fresh out of the team trials, the needles even set. And we'll put all that hardware, we'll run it with this prop for one day. This is a light load prop. It's a 14.5 rev up, cut to 13. That'll give it a nice light load for the first day of flying. Okay, now this will give him, I put another inch of knurling on here. One of the important things, that's, if it's not done, you can get yourself, oh, there it just unplugged. But still, to have this, and I'll double check it that I'm catching a knurl here. And one thing I always liked about the Spitfire, easy to work on. And we're not going to fool around with things like the cowling and everything while we're working on this, because this is just going to be a really, the first day out, we want to run the motor. I want to run that smaller diameter prop. It's a lighter load. Get maybe a gallon of fuel in it. And at the end of the gallon, then we'll put on a full 14-inch prop. Now, Richard Oliver says you really don't have to do that, and Dub doesn't think that's necessary either, but you know what? It's cheap insurance in my case. When you're wearing in new parts, I like it. And hey, so far we've had such good luck with Rojet motors, it's almost comical, and they are so easy to tune. This is the easiest thing of all, is getting a new motor, retrofitting it, boom, and you're ready to go. And one of the things I had to do, I had to switch my header, which has a little dent in the back of it. I didn't want to dent Rich's header, but they're exactly the same rise and everything, so I could clear the tank. I also, while I was doing this, I got out the old Spitfire spinner, which it's not going to balance the plane, but we don't care right now. I don't have a spare nut for the tip for the carbon fiber spinner. Doran is very lax about getting us these parts. We're going to have to punish him. Anyway, we're going to get this buttoned up. The weather report is rain for tomorrow, but hey. One thing really nice about working on this plane, it's very easy to do the work. Now we got all black zip ties on. Now we're going to try to run the first day out with what amounts to be a low load prop. It feels like we've got probably 45 minutes on it, so it's feeling pretty good. Looking forward to flying this if we get some air tomorrow. Okay, the only thing left here, some decent weather, or a little bit less rain than we had the last couple of days. And Rich, we'll see just how this is going to go. Again, I want to run it with this smaller prop. at least another half a gallon before we lean on it. And once we lean on it, it should come right in. Now, you know how they always say, well, save your money for a rainy day. Well, today's that rainy day. So what we're going to do, and we got Rich Wallbridge's ship ready to go as soon as we get some weather. But I thought I could work on the pipe on this, maybe even make a spare one up. At the same time, I'm going through all my old footage for the memories of 2007. And boy, there's some, I had even forgotten how much fun some of this stuff was. It really is a lot of fun looking back at these things. And having all of them, sometimes I play 3 or 4 in one day here. You know, it's funny, it wasn't that many days ago, months ago, weeks ago that we were out with Jose's 90 test ship, and we were having a great time developing a 90, and here it is. It's coming up on the end of the first year of development, and we're getting ready, of course, for the Spitfire. Well, let me get working on a pipe today. Okay, now the two issues that we're dealing with here. This is a straight pipe, and it's got one 425 outlet. I know I wanted to try this. I didn't want to have 2 and then block one up, but I'm going to need 2 of these outlets because I did the same test on the header, and this was super quiet. This was almost electric, but the problem was it's too restrictive to be the way I would like to run the motor. Now also, if you look at this from the side view, see, now some people don't mind that look that the pipe sticks out. I would rather it, if nothing else, just be parallel to the fuselage and not sticking out like an arrow got stuck in or something like that. So the first part of this is I got to pull it all apart, pull that pipe out, using this one for a template maybe, and I'm thinking how I want to do this. Put a little pie cut in it, put a bend, and then I can add the stinger. I already have a pressure fitting in this, so, well, again, and if I have time, you never know how a day is going to play out. What I want to do is make a spare one. Now Mike Scott is wanting to test one of these too. Boy, early in the morning, the phone's ringing already. Let me get the phone. So the first thing I need to do is cut the zip tie here, disconnect it in the back, and see how much I'm looking for. Probably 3/4 of an inch of a bend here. Now with the mount down low, now I can kind of get a gauge on. I took a test cut on the pipe. See what this allows me to do, because I'll have to put another layer of carbon on top of it and high temperature resin. It allows me to put a bend in the pipe. Now, I haven't done this one yet, and I want to do this. This is kind of a prototype that I cut up, and these molds are these are the biggest molds we have right now. So what I can do is I can actually, at the end of this day, wind up with 2 of these if I play my cards right. But now the next thing is to try to get this in place and get the correct bend in it. And that's usually a lot more work than you think it is when you start doing something like this. Now I always think it is. Hey, here we are. Wendy Ertnowski on a cover of 76 magazine. I made these tuned pipes with the help of Kenny Augustine. There were none available commercially for these Suzuki road racers. But here's the thing, I always remember how much trouble it was getting to mate when you'd have 2 bologna slices to get them to mate up and weld. It was a job, and carbon fiber is even worse, because what you have to do is tack glue it somehow, and then when you're all done, put another sleeve of carbon right on top of it. So it really makes it a lot more work than dealing with steel cones where you can cut and grind them. All right, now I can see that I've got a little bit too much bend in it right now. I can use just a shade less bend, and I'll be fine. But that gives me a little bit of an idea of how I can tuck that in. I just don't need it bellying up quite that much. Now this is the way this always seems to go. I've gone a little bit too far now with the bend. It's the same making motorcycle exhaust now too. Just a hair less. And see, now I've got it. It's still gonna stick out of the body by a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, but it's not gonna stick out like that. So aesthetically, once I get the angle right, then I have to roughen that all up so that I can get the second layer of carbon to stick. Okay, it looks like at some point in time we've got this angle really close to where we maximize it. Now I need to take the Dremel tool, roughen this up about 1 inch in each direction, and just make a temporary joint here. This one already has the baffle put in place, and I need to lay up the tube for this side. So this is going to be, I hope, a lot better looking and a lot better performing than the original one. And the original one, what I'll do, of course, is put another stinger in it, and then I'll have 2 choices. Keep in mind, this is the weather we've had 3 days in a row. We're not missing a thing. There's only one problem. Once it rains a certain amount here, we don't have trouble with this house, but our rental property turns into a Noah's Ark, and we wind up going over there and staying over there overnight and trying to keep the water levels down. It's just horrible. And that looks like what's going to happen tonight. So I'm going to try to get this pipe at least so that the resin is drying on it. That'll give me one thing. But boy, we have not lucked out. Rich Wallbridge, your motor's sitting out in the car in the Spitfire. Oh my God, I've had enough of this. I'm really done. And our club contest is this weekend. Pal Park contest. Rain, rain, go away. Okay, it looks like we've got the fit that we want. Now the next thing, of course, I'm just going to have my cup of coffee here, and then we're going to do a final sanding on this and try to get this a temporary joint. And once I get the temporary joint, make sure I haven't altered anything, drop it in place, make sure the cowl fits back on, all the little parts I need to have fit fine. And then we'll need to make the joint out of a piece of the pipe material sleeve. And I'll need to make the internal part, the aluminum tube that goes in there. So boy, we're using rainy days here. Rain, rain, go away. It's just unbelievable what weather we've hit since we got back from the team trials. Okay, now what I did, I made this joint with Rodak 5-minute epoxy. I've got to sand it all down. I want to sand the whole outside over, and I want to absolutely test this fit that we're in a good fit here before we go any further. And that keeps us relatively parallel. And the next step is going to be to take the pipe, which we know is going to be a good fit right now. The whole surface has to be roughed up, or else the next coat of resin is not going to stick the way it should. And this just turns into a very time-consuming part of it. Now, I normally would spend about a half an hour sanding because I need to start feeling where it's getting too thin. In other words, I'm just using this layer really for a mold. So I don't need it to be any thicker than it has to be. Just so I can get the sock to draw over this, compress it down, and then build up the front. This part of it is very labor intensive because I do it in 3 coats. I've already got the bend that I think is going to be accurate. But this part of it, there's just no cheesy way out of this. There's just no, oh yeah, we'll just, you know, take 5 minutes here. This takes time. And every coat has to be sanded. Now, if this were the final coat on a final pipe, we wouldn't care. But when you're using this for a shell or for a mold, this has to be as thin as possible, and it's got to be perfectly accurate because the next layer of sock goes right on top of that. Okay, so now we have our shell totally ready here. The next thing I need to do is get a piece of tubing that inserts inside here. The next thing is I take a piece of this tubing, it's aluminum tubing. I need to put a lip on one end with masking tape, and that's so because we have a draft angle on it. I don't want this part, I want to be able to push it in hard enough. So I need to put some carbon on the inside of this, and it's rough enough that the carbon and the resin will get a good tooth. Now in the times that you leave this loose, well, sometimes you can have a problem. Sometimes it doesn't, but I found out that for me it's a little more reliable when I do it this way. And now I need to build up carbon on this so this doesn't fall all the way in there. And we need to have a piece of raw carbon off of one of the rolls. That's the next thing, and I always make it a little bit oversized. That's going to get wrapped around this until it's the right diameter to fit right in there. Now we're going to need a piece of sleeve, and this comes on 1,000-foot rolls too, of course, or whatever it is. We need to have a piece basically going to go over the hole. It's like a Chinese necklace. Need to go just a little bit past there. Now we need to mix up some of the high temperature resin. And we will be ready. There'll be a two-step operation. One is we're going to get the nose piece in, and part two is we're going to get the sock, the second layer of sock on there. Now one of the things I learned the hard way about using this high temperature resin, you got to really have ventilation going. This is not the kind of stuff you want to be breathing in. When I'm not shooting video, of course, I got my Wilson mask on. Another trick with EPON and with high temperature resin both, and of course you can get this from George Spar. The biggest trick that I know of is stir it with I use an old Allen wrench. Don't stir it with a piece of wood. The wood absorbs some of the chemicals out of the catalyst, and when you pull it out of the mold, you get a piece of rubber instead of a usable part. Now a lot of times with the tune pipes, the thing that's, well, a little bit of extra work or whatever is, it's just so labor intensive making them. And the problem with the material is it's not only expensive. I mean, you can go broke buying that sock and buying a resin, but there's a lot of waste on it too, because you're cutting off like bologna. You're not using the ends. Now I always use just a brush just to stir at the very end. Now I'm going to be real careful about doing this, because this is going to be a prototype part. It's going to have to be cured in the oven. We really don't want to have any compromise on these parts. These parts go through hell in their life cycle. It's really when you think of what these parts do, it's an amazing thing that they survive the way they do. Now I learned a long time ago also that there's no such thing as a shortcut on any of these steps. These steps, every part of it is just labor, and there's just no way that as I wrap this, remember I got to build up the diameter, and every part of this is solid carbon. There's no e-glass, there's no Kevlar, there's no less expensive material. Now each time I go through a wrap or two, I need to go through the same cycle. Otherwise there's going to be dry spots in there, spots that will just be unacceptable to me anyway, because these parts also pull in heat. I was also explaining to Rich Walbridge with his motor, he had at one time put that green paper gasket material in there, and what that does, it insulates the exhaust system from the motor. It doesn't allow the motor to allow the exhaust system to pull the same amount of heat out. I'm getting into it where this is tangled up, but I probably am pretty close to the right amount of material here. But each time I go through this, I have to just get some idea of how much more I'm getting close. But again, when I started this, I had no idea how labor intensive some of these operations were going to be. And what happens is you start making a project like this and you look at the clock and a day of shop time is gone. And you can't imagine how quick the shop time goes when you're trying to make parts. And when you're trying to make production and the phone is ringing. And in our case, there's just a lot of stuff going on here. Now that's a press fit. I want to go one extra layer. And usually what will happen is then I thread this in. It's kind of one of the little things I've developed over the years. Now what I try to do is I try to go in the same way that the material is going to be wound. And we got it. Now I'm putting a little bit of the resin on here because what I want to do is I want to put this around the end to build up a flat spot. And the purpose of that flat spot is going to be for the second layer, so when the zip tie goes on there, I'm not forcing it downhill. I'm on a relatively level area. And again, I'll let plenty hang over. Each time I need to put more and more of the resin on. And again, I really shouldn't say this, but I know several people that have started making pipes, started making props, and they get bored right away with it because it's messy work, it's smelly, it's dirty, it's toxic. And it's the kind of thing not many people really appreciate how much work goes into even making a part like this, a custom exhaust part. And then when you add in the element that it's custom, wow. Oop, there we go. Okay, now once that's on, now that gives me, and that'll all get trimmed out, so I don't even care about that last little piece. Now the next step is going to be to paint the whole part with the resin. I don't want any dry spots on here. And no matter how this part comes out, even with the double layers, it'll be probably a third the weight as if you made it out of aluminum. A whole piece like this machined out of aluminum would be a tremendous, there's no way you could make it in this. These typically come out about 40 to 50 grams. Now that resin has to be soaked on there. We got to take our sock, carefully get this on there. Get overage on both sides. Now another trick I found, if you're going to be experimenting with your own stuff, here's another trick. Wear 2 pair of gloves. 1 pair of gloves on top of the other. What happens is, when you're doing this, what I call the stretch out on any of these parts, or loading the mold up, what can happen is you get a pinhole in the glove. And when you get that pinhole in the glove and the resin works its way inside, you don't really know it until it's really too late. Now the part here is, before I put this in the oven to cure, I have to draw this out. Always get some inside. I want to make sure I get good saturation on this. We're ready to go put this out in the oven now. I have a good feeling we'll be closing in on having what I hope is going to be our 90 pipe design. Well boy, it sure looks like they still have some rain on the field here. Wow, look at the rain. So let's see if all the professionals are here. Anyway, we got Rich Walbridge's engine. We want to try to get some runs on it. Oh, they got that park bench. Look at these cute babies. They got that park bench. Isn't that cute? Look at these guys. I heard it's your birthday, Datavio. Oh, yeah. That's from me and Rich. All right. Enjoy.
Forget it. The air is in the toilet.
Yes, I got a motor to run in, so I'll get some runs on the motor.
How's everything over in
Flood-o-matic, man.
you flooded out?
Oh yeah, what a mess. Over that 2 days, bailing the place out. How's Brian's new plane? Looking good, huh?
Yeah, not bad.
It's doing all right. And we got Bill Rutherford scheduled in here very soon. Club contest this weekend. Brian's got, what is this, his third flight on a T-Bird?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of turbulence.
Yeah, it's bumpy, I can see. Well, I want to run Rich Walbridge's engine in. That'll be one thing I can get done today.
Look at the bench we got.
I see the bench. I'm impressed. Well, the way it's blowing it, it's certainly not. And this is one of those days you have to decide how you want to use it. We're not going to be able to do stunt patterns, but it's still flyable enough that I can get some runs on Rich Walbridge's engine. So now what happens? We always let Brian have the early air because he has to go to work. The rest of us don't. And once he's done, what do you need, Brian? Handle?
Now look at this window. Thank you very much, you guys.
So, Mr. Thunderbird, what are we going to name you now? Thunderstrager or what? So one thing really funny last night, this is true, and it's funny that the four of us are here. Karen gets a bootleg copy of this movie, The Wild Hogs. Boy, that's what we are, the Wild Hogs of Palisades Park here. Good movie. Brian Manow's fourth flight on the Thunderbird. I was thinking of us. We could be the Wild Hogs.
Oh, you got a copy?
I'll give you a copy. I'll bring it tomorrow.
Go home and watch it.
I got a bootleg copy. You could get us, maybe Susan will make us jackets, the Wild Hogs of Palisade Park. You know who I bet would like the movie, Rich? Your buddy that just paid 20 grand for a Harley?
John Ritchie.
Yeah. If you like it, I'll make him a copy too.
Oh, no, if you make me a copy, I'll give him my copy after I see it. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, no, once you watch it, just pass it on. Very funny.
That's why people don't go to the movies anymore.
I just keep thinking of all these old guys riding Harleys when I saw your friend with his Harley at our contest last year. And they go into
he loves his bike.
They go into a bar where there's a real bike gang and the guy says, "You're a doctor, you're not a real Harley rider." Yeah, he says, "No, I'm not, I'm a dentist." I'm not a real doctor, I'm a dentist. Oh man. So I guess this is Brian's last flight here, then he's got to go to work.
The trees are bending over.
Yeah, the trees are bending, I know. Well, for breaking in a motor, it's no problem.
Yeah, you can put it right on the bench.
I already got it in a plane. If I knew it was going to be this crappy, I would have left it on a bench.
Put it right on the bench.
Ah, we'll just fly it. It's better to fly it anyway. You know the guy with the electric twin? He was up in Lee?
Yeah, what's his name?
Moore. Will Moore. He wanted directions how to come down here. I think he's coming down Sunday. I gave him your phone number. So if he calls.
Well, somebody emailed. They wanted to know the address so they could put it on the GPS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I told him 200 Roosevelt Place.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hey, we had fun with that GPS. Uh-oh, here we go. See, it is getting really lousy out there. Good day to break in engines. Get a gallon of fuel through this thing today. What's he crying about?
On television about these guys that go out, flap. Who makes it?
The one I have is a Garmin. Amazing stuff, those GPS systems. They're really cool. Ramo took the thing from our house to South Carolina to Brodax to Oklahoma, back to South Carolina to Washington, and our house had never missed a beat. With his, and then it got stolen. They stole it out of the motel. Welcome to New York City.
The one that I have in the BMW?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. All the new streets coming in, all the new to talk to you.
Somebody's cell phones, is that Brian's or yours?
Hello.
Okay, we're going to use up the time today to get some runs on Rich Wallbridge's engine. Oh, I lost it out at Muncie, so you did. You lost it on that? I know. Yeah.
I told you, you lost it on that.
As I fuel the plane, it reminds me of that. Yeah, Bill Rutherford will be here on the 10th. We'll give him a hard time. Say the least. Circle burner speed is the 10th, right?
I think so. I think it is. That's phase 1.
Yeah.
Profile.
Well, we'll see if maybe Peabody can loan him a plane. Or he can fly this.
Give him the Testarossa. I'll give him Miss
He's not qualified.
Give him Miss Ashley.
See that, Bill? You're not qualified yet. All he is an airline pilot. He's not qualified. Okay. I'm just going to fly around in circles. I'm going to run on this. Brand new engine, yeah. It's got it's half a gallon of fuel. Ready? We're not able to shoot any video of the flights we flew today for two reasons. Number one, the wind is really howling. This motor's now got over a gallon of fuel on it, and it's ready for a real prop. I'm going to we'll do it back at the shop. Next time we fly it, we'll get a real prop on it. And it for the first day out, it ran. Even the geese approved. The geese really liked it. I was afraid the tripod was going to blow over. What? I was afraid the tripod was going to blow over with the camera. The wind is really howling now. Put the stuff. Oh, look at the plane's moving by itself. Okay, so we got a good first day on Rich Walbridge's motor. Hey, the birds are back. Oh my God, look at all the birds. The thing that's, I guess, important, when a motor is new, I like to run it at least a day or two. We got about a half a gallon. With a smaller, lighter prop load and a little bit richer than it wants to be. And now, Rich Oliver and Dub don't think that's necessary. I guess I'm just old school. That's the way we used to break in motors. And I've always had good luck with mine, so I want to give Rich, I want to try to set this up pretty much the same as Rich, you know, so his motor will be pretty much a carbon copy of mine. And I think to a certain degree we've already got a good start on that. Now, if it's nice tomorrow, we'll try to get a real prop on it, a full 14-inch prop, and get flying. But right now, it's really getting to be a hurricane. Check this out on the way home as I leave the park. There's a Ferrari. Oh, you never know what you're going to see around here. Well, I don't know what model that is. Obviously, John Cafaro does. Ferraris and road jets, what a combination. And hurricane winds. Now this means that this weekend they're going to have some warbirds flying in here at Teterboro. I don't know if they're not flying in yet, of course. But in the years gone by, we've had a great time at Wings and Wheels, and they have it right here in beautiful Teterboro Airport. Now, when we got back from running Rich Walbridge's engine, we had a sad incident. One of our big fish has passed away. We had two of these. We had a pair. And we never know why, whether it's old age. They were about 7 or 8 years old, but we're down to having one big fish in the pond. That's kind of sad. In fact, the fish look sad this morning. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if they're just normally sad or they know one of their brothers has passed on. And what we always do is I always bury them in the garden. All our fish are buried in the garden, the ones that have passed on. And of course, we have our little memorial to Chicky here, but boy, it's a sad day. It's sad. And whenever any of these animals pass on, and in our case, they're part of our family, and we miss them. We miss them a lot. Now we're way over a gallon of fuel with this. Between the bench and the flights that we've had, and it just really feels like a strong motor. In fact, I'm thinking what Rich might want to do, and I'll make some notes of this. He might want to run the pipe just a little bit longer, maybe 18 1/4, just to throttle us back a little bit. This is really a powerful motor. If he were flying in cold weather, this is going to be way too powerful and might need some head gaskets. Now, but what will tame it down some, it's ready for a real prop. Now, next time we get a flying session, you can see this is a full 14. We're going to go to the full, that's a 13, or I think it's a little less. But this is a high load, a low load prop. This is a high load prop. It's a Brian Ether. It's a 14 4.5 that's been pitched a little bit, and we've used this. So I think, given the fact that we've had such good success with this motor, this is now ready to go. We're going to put the prop on, and hopefully in the next day or so, we don't know. Well, we got a contest coming up this weekend. We got an air show coming up. And I don't know, now Rich is waiting for twins to be born, so he may not be flying. He may not be flying for a while. I don't know. We'll find out. And that's what really works well for us, is having a plane like the Spitfire that's easy to do the maintenance and change pipe lengths on, and very easy to do the maintenance. Gotten good service out of this plane. Now this is going to be 7 years that we've had this plane. It's actually 8. 8-year-old plane. And you can just picture what the difference in the prop load is. An inch of diameter is a tremendous amount. Okay, so all that we're waiting for on this project now is a flyable day that we can do some stunt patterns, get the motor fine-tuned, get the final pipe length. I think this motor is pretty much ready to go. It's got a real prop on it now, a prop that we use on the Testarossa. That project is moving right along. And I think it just couldn't have been sweeter or better. This really worked out well for Rich. And we don't mind doing it. Anybody else that would like me to tune their engine, well, we're getting good at it. I don't know if we're really getting good at it or we just do a lot of it. Like being a milkman, if you deliver enough milk, you don't drop them. Anyway. And the weather report is not good, by the way, but we're just gonna tough it out. Now we wound up with a total of 3 of these. The one with double stingers I'm going to send down to Mike Scott. He's going to do some testing. Has a pressure fitting. Now the other two, we need to locate where we want to put the stinger. Now this is a whole different design with the very sharp angle here. And what I want to do, I made up some special stinger material that's a little bit bigger in diameter, so I'll have one big OD instead of 2 small ones. Not sure what the gain or loss on that's going to be until we get out to the field and test this. And our bent pipe is going to need some hand finishing and a stinger, and then we're going to wind up with 3 of these. And we hope, of course, after testing them, that we'll be able to pick the best, get some input from Mike Scott too, how his tests are going, and we can actually then at some point in time swap them around and see how, for instance, Mike has his 90 in a Strega ARF, and I don't think he shortened the nose, but again, we're going to find out. That's a nice thick wing. Sometimes you can get away with stuff like that, like you can on Jose's. Our original 90 test plane. You really get away with murder as long as that wing is thick. Now what I always do is up on the nose of the part where this is going to be in a coupler, I want to make this almost like some threads, roughen it up so that, well, similar to the back of the header. An engraving tool is good. Anything to make it rough. When this is smooth, the pipe just tends to slip right out of the rubber coupler. Anything but a smooth, polished surface seems to be fine. Now what I can do now, there's an engraving tool. Engraving tool even roughens it up even more. Anything so that coupler gets a good grip. Like the back of a prop washer where it faces the prop, you want it to be rough. The worst thing is to have a smooth surface. Well, we now have 3 different pipe designs for the next test day we have. And this one is the least objectionable of them all as far as how much of it sticks out the bottom of the plane. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Now, all we're waiting for now is what we're always waiting for, a test day. But tonight is a very special night. We're celebrating Rosh Hashanah tonight. My son is already here. They're upstairs cooking away, so I'm going to just hang this back up on the wall as we get ready to celebrate the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah. I smell some good food cooking. The dolls are smelling food cooking here. This is very nice. As always, the missus is busy. Look at this, she has the little invitations. We have the Rosh Hashanah menu. Is this a new menu?
Yeah, they're place cards, not invitations.
Place cards. Karen, just so in case Karen doesn't know, where am I sitting? A new flower arrangement for this year. You see the new flower arrangement there?
I did. I did not.
Oh, I see we have some goodies.
We have a lot of women at the table.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Mm. All right.
Say that word. Say that word. What are these? What are these called?
Rosh Hashanah.
No, what are these? Rugelach. Say it. Come on.
Rugelach.
With the throat clear. With the rugelach.
Rugelach.
Rugelach. All right. Good.
Yeah. He can't do that.
Yeah. You know.
Hey, what's cooking, baby? In your new granite kitchen? Wow, look at this.
Okay.
What's cooking? I'm hungry.
Matzo ball soup.
Oh, look at that bread. What do you call that bread again?
Challah.
Challah. Oh.
Oh yeah, there he is with that same. It's the throat clear. It's the
Wow.
That's yours.
That's mine?
Oh, no,
What time is the family getting here?
Good one, yeah. Or just keep it because I'll have water in it.
Karen, what time is the family getting here?
6:30.
Okay, so I got time.
Okay, this is.
Let's see what that meat looks like. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
That's 12.5 pounds.
No wonder people convert to Judaism so
Hey,
quickly.
you eat pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, what's in there? Potatoes? Oh, potatoes.
See this one? Look at this, right there.
And as always,
This guy right here.
we always admire Karen's design handiwork in her kitchen.
Because right now is
Okay, so you want to see the rest of the stuff?
Yeah, let's see what we got, you know.
Okay. This is.
I'm getting hungry right now.
Green beans and toasted pecans.
Let's see what the pecans taste like. Oh, very Jewish.
Toasty.
Jewish pecans.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Well, this you'll have to. This isn't finished, but this is the beginning of. This is an apple spice cake, and it's going to
Let me
get.
take a little piece.
Get out of here! It's going to get a
A
caramel.
little
sauce.
piece. Nobody will know.
No, go away.
You can
Caramel.
stay- you can
Caramel
stay- take a little
sauce.
piece. Yeah.
I'll taste a little
We need to
piece.
just drink the caramel sauce. We'll take that.
Okay, there's more stuff.
Oh, right here. Look at this. Now you know these.
Stuffed cabbage.
Yep.
I know them well.
Also called what? What? You have the word. It's your word.
What's your word? Glumpies?
Galupkis. Yeah.
Gulumkis.
Okay, and this is called.
That's before I became Jewish.
Okay, this is called kasha varnishkas.
Oh.
It's kasha, buckwheat.
That's just this stuff. The
It's
brown
a
stuff.
buckwheat grain,
All right.
mushrooms and onions,
And we have the traditional honey, of course,
for sweet ear.
Oh wait, well you see that? That's the
from the Carabello
aviary.
aviary is
Aviary
birds.
for birds, right? Yeah, these are
God.
for bees. Ah,
God, all that money we spent on your education.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Wow.
Salad.
So they're getting here at 6:30, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Wow.
All right. I guess I better get ready.
No, you have to get ready yet.
No, we got about an hour and a half before our company gets here. Our family and people that are going to celebrate Rosh Hashanah with us. And I just went through the mail and here's my Warbirds magazine. Boy, we're just watching, as we speak, I'm watching Al Raby on TV as I'm editing down the things for the memories tape. And this is probably going on a week now, I've been editing down all this footage, and here we are, P51. Al Raby's P-51. It'll be on the Memories of 2007 tape. This is from the Texas trip. Oh, it's good going back and seeing all these. You know, you forget all these things we did. You forget half of them. That's the problem. Anyway, what it looks like is they've devoted absolutely a whole issue to P-51. So we're just going to go through this real quick. Now, can you imagine at one time there just were row after row after row of these guys? Oh, man. Just went on forever. That was John Cafaro's favorite, the one he's modeling, early model. Getting hungry for that food, boy. The whole house is permeated with the smell of this food. And Karen and Craig usually put on quite a show when it comes to that food, boy. They really put a lot of love and care into it. Even just the tablescape. The Malcolm Hood. Boy, it was such a shame when Todd Lee lost his A model. That was the year we flew to B-25 and all that wind was blowing on top 20 day. Oh. Dude, that's the canopy that the early models had, the A models, I believe. Maybe the A and B, I'm not sure. And I think they used the same hood, the Malcolm hood, the same one they used on a Spitfire. Another really cool model, I thought, from years ago. Billy Simons had a P-39 semi-scale model. Can you imagine just having row after row after row of these just sitting on a runway and they're all running at the same time? And our own Strega in one of its resplendent paint jobs, number 7. That was the first of the Reno Air Racers that captivated my interest, Strega. Yep, when you think about it, hard not to like P-51s. Hard not to like P-51s. Anyway, we always love these Warbird magazines. The air show's coming up this weekend. God, there's so many things. So it seems like this summer went by quicker than most. Another one of the early models with dual controls. Look at this, dual controls. Cool. Very cool magazine, very cool. And we actually have DVDs and videos of number 38 here with those counter-rotating props, counter-rotating griffins cranking over. I think Paul Winter, among others, and Ron Keefe both used this model to kind of make a copy of. Paint job many people have copied, including Ron Keefe, of course. Voodoo. Look at the spat. It says, "Dad, this ride's for you." One of the Israeli modified, there's a story in here about how the Israelis used the P-51 in a very unique role. Again, these magazines, very relaxing to just sit down on a couch and enjoy one story after another. A great issue, and boy, if you like P-51s, don't miss this one.
The bread's behind you. Oh, and you need a bread knife.
Just one. It does.
That's it. Something is the year, and we gather together to wish everybody a happy and a healthy new year. And we eat sweet things so that the year is a sweet year. And it's interesting that you knew about the round things. And that's like the circle of life. And Craig is going to say a prayer for the bread, and he's going to do a prayer for the wine. And then we can dig in and have a wonderful meal.
All right. So bread was round.
Oh, no. The bread was round.
Was round. Now it's sectioned off into...
Oh, and we have honey to go with the bread, just for taste.
And for a sweet New Year.
Sweet New Year.
Okay. So without further ado, here's the wine. Blessing on the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen, which means, "Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings us fruit from the vine."
Amen. Before I go to bed.
Oh, do you?
Yes. Nice.
Okay, I'll get it.
Pass the honey. Traditional honey.
Yeah, I like honey.
Jim's hogging the honey.
No.
A honey hog. Jim the wild hog. Well, after all that rain and all the bad weather we've had, it finally looks like we have a little break in the weather here. And I hope this is going to be a real productive day. We got some stuff we want to do at the field, and of course we want to get some flights if possible, just for fun. They're also predicting nice weather for the air show this weekend. Wings and Wheels is this weekend. Our club contest is this weekend. And it looks like we've hit a nice little gap in the weather. Let's hope I'm not lying. But I've lied in the past. This weather this time of year, well, not only this time of year, all the time, it can change in a hurry. Look at that flag. The flag's not even moving. I'm excited. We can get some time on Wallbridge's engine today. Some flights on a Testarossa, test that little vent out. We got some new props to fool with. And of course, it's always cool just hanging out with the wild hogs. Now, what's this traffic? Look at this traffic. Oh boy, does this look like a beautiful day. Oh, I see this guy. The guy's beat me to the field already. Ah, the wild hogs of Palisade Park have beaten me to the field again. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at them flying there. Oh, a sight for sore eyes. Look at these guys are out here, they're reading the paper. What else is he doing? He's got some other notepad there. Oh my God, what a day. Oh, what a day, what a day, what a day. This is what we live for. Like being at Chase Stadium on a 69 net World Series. The first thing I want to test today, I want to get some feedback on if this is going to help solve. We tried the little L fitting, which made it better, but not perfect. Now we're going to try this little scoop that we envisioned, and that uniflow vent. Now the only problem is it's really a pain in the neck fuel in a plane. I should have made it a little bit bigger, but of course I can cut this off and just make one a little bit bigger. That won't be a big problem at all, if this shows any promise. So that's one of the things we want to test. Once we get an idea, feel how that is going to be, then we want to run Rich Wallbridge's engine, maybe get another half gallon, 3/4 of a gallon through it. And that engine certainly has come around to be just about as friendly as I could ever expect. We got a real prop on it, and we're ready to do some real flying today. And I hope by this time next week, once we get these contests out of the way, Rich will start working with the big Stuka. Well, after 2 flights, this didn't work out at all. This is no better than it was with an open vent. So what I'm going to do is put the T-fitting on there just to get through the day. I thought that might minimize it. Didn't do a thing. But this is the only way to really figure it out. And I got a prop that I pitched up for this plane. Got a little bit, one of Doran's props with a little extra pitch. I'm going to change that right now. So I want to mark this one that needs a little more pitch, and I've got one on here that I already have a little bit of extra pitch on. They're all marked. Just be a question of swapping that out. I don't know why, but this is one of the parts I always enjoy. The endless search for the perfect propeller. And of course it never ends. And when you find it, you chip it up on the next takeoff. Now this looks like the best solution we have so far, other than capping off the top vent. This is the only solution, in fact. With that, and this is, I'll call it the Bill Rich solution. That seems to keep the nose off, the oil off the nose of the plane. So in the future, we're going to pull that scoop off at some point in time, maybe over the winter, refinish the body. But it just annoys me that. And it's only when you use these big props. It seems like if you use these 14-inch props and really spool them up, it always bleeds something, and I don't know what the answer is. In fact, one of the things I could do here probably is just put a vent. Let me see if I can put another vent sticking straight out that doesn't go into the airstream, so I can switch them back and forth. Again, I'll think about what I want to do there this afternoon. And what's going to happen, we're trying to film in really bright sunlight a lot of times you don't get good footage, but I wanted to get a couple of the Testarossa flights on the 3 blades before I start testing the 2 blades, and then I want to end the day hopefully with just get another half a gallon or so through Rich Walbridge's motor. That's always, and then that, I think at the end of that day, that motor will be ready to really perform. what I want. It's actually an annoying way to solve it, but it solves it. And of course I could put it, I had that on a 90, whether I like it or not. And again, it looks like the air hasn't gone totally bad. May be able to get a couple of flights, but it's not really the flights I'm concerned with. I'm really only concerned with trying to get this not to have the oil all over the nose, because imagine on a Spitfire all the work that would go into that, and then to have that happen, ugh, I don't even want to think about it. And if we ever come up with a solution, which I'm not sure we will, make sure that prop is tight too. We had that prop come off the other day. Not my favorite choice. Oh, let me get the watch. We're running kind of late. Now, as this day has gone by and the air has heated up, well, one of the things that's happened is this prop now doesn't have enough pitch to really be in a motor run area that I'd like. But we do have some of the two blades that are pitched up for relatively hot weather. And so this one, as somebody rides in here, this one I'll just mark. This is now going to be, well, supposedly a cold weather prop. We'll find out. I've been paying close attention to keeping the props on tight too, instead of getting too distracted, which can happen. Now, what I do with this one is kind of a medium pitch. So I know in the future, and this is one of the ones that I made from Doran's mold, and it has the weave in it. But again, it's all determined by the pitch, even though this has thinned out tips and everything. Now, the two blades usually have, the ones that I've been using, usually have just a little bit more pitch than I need. But in this kind of hot weather, and it's really getting cookie out here, cookie's a good word, I think the two blades will be a better choice. Now it just stands to reason. We get a day like today where it's variable, and what's happened is it started out to be stun heaven. It got to where the wind was shifting all over the place, and now it's gotten where it's almost dead calm. So we've got a lot of things. Let's see, we're at 90 right now, so 90 air density. So it's still a relatively good flyable day, and I wanted to get some more work done on this, because once I pull this apart to do the fuselage, I want this problem solved ahead of time. And I keep repeating that in my mind. I keep thinking, boy, by the end of the season I'm going to be the king of tank vents or something. But we're going to come up with the solution, of course, is to run pipe pressure, muffler pressure, or the check valve. Both of those totally eliminate the problem, but both of them totally mute to some degree, a small amount anyway. They mute the motor run, the 2.4 brake that I really like. So it's like the price you have to pay for, well, not sure we have to pay it, but I'm certainly going to give it my best shot. Prop on tight. Stooge locked. Koreans practicing driving. Now, for sure, we're going to have, there's a girl and I guess, daughter practice driving here. And I've had them for the last hour just watch. Yeah, they're practicing. Not sure what they're practicing. It's still hot. It's hot out there. wanted to do is make a decision here. What I wanted to do is put on our other pipe, the twin stinger pipe that has a pressure fitting, and try to make a decision which way I'm losing more of the motor run, with the check valve or with pipe pressure. Both of them have a penalty of softening up the motor run or muting it, but I don't know which is the worst of the two right now. So because I have some time this afternoon, this is a good day to do this experiment. And then I'll know for myself. Now see, this is what I don't like, and this is the thing I guess you can get from this day of testing. I can get from it, is I want to, boy is it hot. What I want to do is determine which of these two I'm paying the least penalty for. And the problem is, both ways, we're paying, one way or another. This is something. In other words, we get the best motor run when that uniflow vent is wide open. And if we could figure out how to do it without having that oil all over the plane, well then we're going to be happy. But the Bill-Rich solution is a Band-Aid maybe solution, not a permanent solution. Pipe pressure, of course, seals the system, and usually, or almost always, I shouldn't say, most of the time there's a penalty that the 2-4 brake kind of diminishes some. So that's one of the things we don't like. But everything on my life, this stunt stuff is, you steal from Peter and you pay Paul. You never get a free ride. That's the problem. You never get where, oh good, I got everything. Almost never, anyway. Everything stayed sealed as nice as could be. Actually, I could even put pipe pressure. I know I have a fitting on this one. I forgot I had a fitting on it. In fact, maybe I'll do that even, just to give it a test. Yeah, I was very, I guess, smart in my own way. When I put the pressure fitting on, I put the pressure fitting on all the pipes, even the spare ones. And if I don't use it, you can just leave it capped off. There's no downside to it. So let's see, do we want to do that? Nah, I'll change the pipe anyway. Just for exercise. To be honest, I'm always a little jealous. Not a little jealous, I'm a lot jealous. Because I can really remember the old days of going to the motorcycle races and watching these totally professional factory mechanics on the sponsored bikes. And they would just be zzz, 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 with boom, transmission parts flying out, zzz, zzz, clutch coming out. It would be like second nature to them. And the guys at the drags, of course, out comes the crankshaft. Something else comes out. Now we take this off. We need to sort of be a little challenging, in fact. Need to get a piece of this tubing on here if we're going to do this test properly. And what is, no matter how many times you do the test and you think you know the answer, every once in a while it's a surprise, and you learn something you didn't know the day before. And in my case, that happens very often, simply because we're always ripping things apart and changing them and moving them. And notice we're not using any more of those orange zip ties. Bye-bye orange zip ties. Boy, they were a nightmare. And this is the pipe that we had on at the Nats. So this is a very predictable soft pipe. About 8,400 RPM. To figure out how we want to route this up here. And we found out the black and the white zip ties are by far the best. The hell with all those colored ones, those day glow ones. Now the other choice we have, because we don't really have a hole where we can let the tubing's just going to flop around. The two choices are I can hook that tubing to the overflow vent, and I can hook it to and then plug up the uniflow vent. I have two choices here to try. On the uniflow vent you get one type of run, and on the overflow vent it just becomes a box tank. You get a totally different run. But give us two more things to try while we have what amounts to be actually a flyable day here. I'm surprised not many other guys are here. Now the only The only scenario I know ahead of time that I know for sure isn't even a possibility here is to hook up that pressure line to the check valve, because when I've tried that in the past, it shuts the motor off at certain parts of the pattern. Let's just see if this is going to reach. Yeah, this will reach. So I'll try that position first. We'll see. And because we're running pressure, we'll obviously have to reset the needle. That's another thing. All these experiments, all this technology, but when you get it right, there's something about the day you get it right, or the afternoon, that ride home is... Frank McMillan said it right one time. He somehow alluded to the fact that when you have the plane running just the way you want, and on that way home, boy, oh boy, is it pleasant. And he's right. He's totally right. Now the trick is going to be... Let's just see what the starting